Let's talk about the difference of liquid fertilizer versus granular fertilizer for lawns. Come with me and I'll show you how we mix our liquid fertilizer for our customers.
So first, before we begin, we're going to mix up a tank, but we're going to put on safety gear, glasses, gloves. Make sure yourself is protected from the products as they're concentrated. You don't want them on your skin, you don't want them in your eyes. And then what we'll do, before we do that, before we put gloves on, because I'm not going to need them for this moment, we're going to write down the products that we use and record it for regulation rules and stuff. So I got my tablet here, and what we do is on my cell phone, I can put in here how many gallons are left and how many gallons I need, and it figures up, it does math. Since I set up a spreadsheet, it does the math of exactly how many pounds of urea I need, how many pounds of, or how many fluid ounces of induce, et cetera, whichever is being added. Not all this is being added, but just the ones that are RGS, it'll tell me exactly how many fluid ounces of RGS I need. So in this case, this truck here has 85 gallons already in it. We're gonna go to 275, so we're gonna mix up what we use. But we have to record it for regulation rules and stuff like that of exactly what products are going in the tank for EPA laws. So I'm gonna do that here just now.
We also, by the way, we have a cheat sheet, so if you happen to be not here on a particular day, someone could come in, grab our cheat sheet, and look at the mixing rates for each product, for each batch, particular of what round we're on.
Right. Yes, the spreadsheet was my idea, so it's mine, so I use it, but for everybody else, they get the paper. Put on our gloves. So we're going to put 124 pounds of urea into our agitator and let it start mixing it up. Urea is water soluble, so you can put it in and it dissolves pretty easily, and it will.
Patrick, before we continue, do you want to show us our full system, our reserve tank, and
Sure.
and how the whole function kind of works with the hoses and everything else?
All right, so we'll start at the beginning. We have a 1,500 gallon water tank here that connects.
2,500 gallon.
2,500 gallon water tank here that connects to our water supply line. That uses a floating device, kind of like a toilet bowl. That once the water reaches a certain point, the water main will shut off, so it won't just keep filling. But it holds 2,500 gallons of water, which then goes straight into our agitator through these hoses. And we got these shut-off valves here for as necessary. So it can go into here. This is where we mix all our products together, allowing it to agitate and kind of dissolve and kind of combine itself before, after it's all mixed and we're ready, then it'll go from this hose all the way to the truck that we're going to fill up. And so it shoots out about, I don't know, 5 gallons a second, or 5 gallons, maybe 5 gallons every 5 seconds, we'll say. So it shoots pretty fast. It can fill up a 300 gallon tank in roughly about 4 minutes, of just straight water from this 2,500 gallon tank. So the first thing we'll do, now that we've got all that out of the way, is actually we got to connect the hose to the tank. So I got to go grab the hose over here and connect it to our truck. Got a quick release, which you just connect the hose to, making sure these tabs are locked in place, otherwise a little bit here will cause it to leave a gap and water will leak out when you're starting to fill it up. And then you open up the valve to let the water go in. So we start mixing. We'll put this here. So the way this sets up is This is your intake. This is, to think of it like a car. So your intake, this is your exhaust. Water goes in here, goes in through the pump, goes up to this point, and then your exhaust, you can either turn it this way and go to your truck, or you see your hose line, or this way goes to the agitator. So it makes 124 pounds of urea. It doesn't have to be one bag equals 50 pounds, so it doesn't have to be precise. If you go like an extra couple pounds over, you're only putting down barely, on a 300-gallon tank, you're putting down barely any extra nitrogen per 1,000, maybe like a point or something. So you don't have to be too precise, but you do have to be, I mean, within reason. So we will cut open the bag. I thought I had a knife over here, but I don't. After one bag, I let the water start to fill up a little, and this way helps to dissolve what's already starting. Otherwise, you get too much in there, then it becomes difficult to try to cycle it through or agitate it through.
So you like to get it, you'd like to start the dissolving early because it takes a little while for it to dissolve properly. Is that the case?
Yes. Urea can dissolve easily. However, 124 pounds of urea takes a little while in a small tank. So it's a good idea to start trying to add a little bit of water to allow it to dissolve a little quicker. A little easier. So now we put 100 pounds in. And add a half a bag. Each pound's 50, we need 124. We'll add half a bag.
So you need 124 pounds. We're just going to call it 25 pounds is a half a bag. If we put a half a bag in, we're close enough. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. 1 extra pound isn't going to break, in the long run, isn't going to break things.
And with this rate, Patrick, how many pounds of nitrogen are you putting down per 1,000 square feet?
We are putting down 3/4 of a pound
Okay.
of nitrogen per 1,000.
Now, how long did it take you to do this without making a mess? I see your place is pretty clean here. I don't see urea all over the floor. I know it wasn't like this in the beginning.
It wasn't.
How long did it take? And then what's the key to keeping this place neat and clean?
It took 2 months. 2 months of really trying to fine tune the throwing the products in and these liquids, because really the liquids are the messier part, and we'll find out here in a second. But the liquids make the bigger mess. The urea, it got easier with just making sure the bag is properly settled in here. But the liquids tend to make the bigger mess. And it took about a couple months of really practicing fine tuning, positioning the tank or the agitator where it needs to be, things like that. And so it just comes with practice and just doing it over and over. Eventually you're like, I'm tired of cleaning so much. Let's figure out a better way. So with the urea, now we add Infix, which is a slow release. It helps to allow the urea to kind of slowly dissolve versus being a quick release. So we're going to add 1.6 ounces. This tip and pour here goes up to 4 ounces, but it has these little lines or notches that we can tell roughly 1.6, or I got like 1.5. Yeah. So 1.5, 1.6. I'm gonna just tip it into here. Close it up. This stuff here is dark in color and it stains incredibly horrible. Like it will stain the floor, and in some cases you can't even get it off the floor anymore. It'll stain your fingers, and it takes forever to get on your fingers. So one, make sure you're wearing gloves. But two, watch where that goes, because it will stain whatever it touches. Now we mix it. We've got 30 gallons, give or take, in here, which is fine. Now we're gonna, instead of the intake coming from the 2,500 gallon tank, it's gonna go from, we're gonna change it over now, it's gonna come from the agitator, and it's gonna go back to the agitator. So it's a cycle. It's just gonna keep repeating itself, mixing the product up more and more. We'll turn on the motor and get started. Now we're going to shut it off, and it's mixed. This is going on for about 5 minutes, give or take. The reason is because it takes a while to agitate to dissolve all the urea, so it's got to constantly keep agitating, keep mixing, so that it can turn that granular into a liquid. Next, we're going to add the RGS, which is some product that's used to help with root growth.
RGS and dethatch, right?
And dethatch, yes. It'll also deal with dethatching the lawn, or at least eating away some of the thatch layer in the soil. The reason we don't add it, I didn't add this beforehand, and we're not going to do it till now, is because RGS, when you mix it in here and you agitate it, it foams up. It gets real messy, it can foam up real fast, and sometimes go over the lid. So I wait to do it last, and I just add what I need, and then just shoot it to the tank. So in this case, I need RGS. I need 3.5 gallons. So we got these lines here. This will help me to kind of see. Each of these notches here now is 2.5 gallons. So it'll help me to see exactly how much I need of RGS to put in here. Open the valve, and you see, product just shoots right in. When I'm done, I'm going to shut the valve off. The reason for that is safety. You just shut it off and put the hose back, the gun back in here, and hold it, and we're good. Usually we're good to go. All right, for this particular mixture, all the products have been added. We're not adding an herbicide to this round into the tanks. They're going to be applied differently. But if you wanted to, you could add anything else that you wanted. You could add an insecticide if you wanted to. You could add an herbicide if you wanted to. Whatever product is in liquid form, or somehow can be in liquid form, you can apply it in here and then put all of it into your tank, and it'll mix it all while driving, as well as if you agitated it in here beforehand.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why we're not adding herbicide to this round is because during this round we're doing a lot of aeration with overseeding,
Right.
and we don't want the herbicide to have any conflict with our seeding.
Right. The herbicide that we use says that you have to wait 3 weeks before seeding, and so to make sure that we don't interfere with someone who got seed, preventing it from growing, we don't blanket spray with herbicide.
Sure.
We do something different. We spot spray.
Plus, with this late in the fall and the good weed coverage we've had in the spring and midsummer, weeds are very, very low.
Right. Yeah, we've been fortunate now that we've been blanket spraying for a while now, that the weeds are 99% under control. So now we're going to shoot the rest of the truck. All right, we're done filling it up. What will happen, because some of these products, like I said, the RGS will foam up. It'll still foam up even when filling up the truck, so that you have to let it settle. And then once you find whatever gallon you're trying to reach, you might have to fill it up again or add more water, but you got to let the foam settle down. We only fill up to usually max 275, so we have about 25 gallons of grace period or space, so that we've yet to have that issue since. So that's it.
We also keep little cheat sheets everywhere, so in case Patrick's not here or someone else needs to jump in and mix, we have cheat sheets on how that's done, how the inductor can be used, what switches need to be turned to do certain things as a backup system here. Patrick has this in his head, so it's very easy for him to do this every day because he does it for all the trucks every day. So it's now a muscle memory for him. But for all of us that don't do it often, it's not a muscle memory.
Yeah. The other thing I'll share with you, an experience that we had. We have a water shutoff valve here, an emergency shutoff valve for this tank, because we had bought one floating device that malfunctioned sometime in the evening, but fortunately someone was here. But when that happened, the water didn't shut off and it started overflowing the tank and spilling out over the floor. Someone was here and was able to catch it quickly, and only spilled probably about 30 gallons, 20 gallons. But we have a water shutoff valve for that safety reason, in case if things like this happen, we can quickly shut off the water to our tank without shutting off the water to our building.
Do you shut this water valve off at night?
In the beginning, when we got this new floater, this different style, I did for safety because I wasn't sure. I haven't, though, for about the past 4 or 5 months now. I think it's fine. During the winter, I'll shut it off just for my own personal comfort. But no, and this floating device that we use, this floater, whatever, seems to work great, and we haven't had any issues with it since. I do routine like once every 4 months inspection, where I'll just look at it and make sure that it's still in one piece, nothing seems to be broken, stuff like that.
And this tank solely has water in it. That's all that's in here. It's just water.
Just water, just to the water tap.
So I know there's a lot of debate, granular versus liquid. Everybody has their own way of doing things. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I know when we talked to the dean of the turf school at CSU, he let us know there's benefits of granular and liquid fertilizer for the plant, the way the plant intakes the food and the product. So I don't think there is a right or wrong. It's personal preference, but everybody has their own opinion on it. But we were mostly a granular company and have moved more towards liquid. And what have you found has happened since we've done that?
The benefits for the customer or the benefits for the lawn, we found that some of the pros of it are that our service calls have dropped. Like I've been told, I don't know the exact number. Someone else can maybe give better information on that. But with the products we apply and the blanket spraying with each app and stuff, we've helped to eliminate about, it feels like 70% of our service calls. Customers are happier, their lawns are greener, their weeds are under control to where there's barely any. So we've had big success in at least implementing quality service for our customers, where in the past when we were doing spot spraying with weed control and things like that, it's easy for someone to miss something. Each tech is different, each tech sees things differently, each tech thinks a weed is like one weed is a weed while another person sees it and says, oh, that's a flower. So it helps to, make sure that the lawns get everything it needs every time, where a tech is just walking the lawn once instead of walking the lawn twice. And customers are happy with it. I mean, in the end, like I said, as long as the customers, as the service calls, and as long as the complaints have dropped significantly as they have, the process is working a lot better for us this year.
Do you think it's, let me ask you this question. Is it easier or harder to track products when we're doing granular versus liquid? And when I say track, I mean to hold the tech accountable. Did he put the right amount down per day, per square footage he had? Which one is easier for you to track product use and product cost?
Product use, it's in my opinion, it's easier to track with the liquid, mainly because liquid, you have a 275 gallon tank filled. They're spraying 100,000 square feet of turf. So you multiply however many square feet per gallon and stuff like that, and it comes out to they should use 250 gallons on 100,000 square foot. So if they come back with 25 gallons, give or take, we know they did good. They sprayed evenly. Everything was most likely sprayed, properly. But if they come back with like 125 gallons, they were spraying too fast or moving too fast, spraying too light. Then we check calibration with tanks, then we check tech speed, we check things like that. So it's easier with liquid to verify how much product is supposed to be put down versus how much is being put down. With granular, you can still do that with bags. You can still be like, well, a bag should cover 16,000 square feet, and stuff like that. But still, bags require weight, and so by the end of the day, you're like, well, you should come back with 1.5 bags or 1 3/4 bags. So you're just kind of roughly guessing it then. I mean, it's not far off, but in my mind, liquid seems a better way to track how much product is being put down. Plus, I'm the one who mixes their tanks versus the technician. So I know exactly what product is in a tank and what was added, what was not added. And so this makes sure that all the products that need to be applied are properly mixed into the tanks so that the tech doesn't have to do anything but spray. And that makes it easy for me to know they got the right amount of urea. As long as the technician walks the right speed, they got the right amount of urea, the right amount of nitrogen, right amount of weed control, right amount of humic, right amount of whatever else is being added. All that was mixed in properly. They just need to walk the right pace, and that works. In my mind, it helps me to track that stuff.
I think liquid's more precise because, granular gets thrown on the sidewalks. You have to blow it off. It gets thrown in the beds. Where with a liquid treatment, you can get pretty precise of where you want the treatment to go. And the way we train our guys to walk, there's no gaps between the walking style. They overlap, they hit it, and I feel like it's more precise to spray than it is to just throw granular everywhere.
And in that respect, it is. You're right, messes are a lot less because a bag of fertilizer, at times we've found bags will somehow rip open in the back of their truck. And then fertilizer spills all over the bed of the truck, and then you've just wasted it. Sometimes the tech will clean it up and put it back. Sometimes the tech will just blow it out onto someone's lawn or something, just like a little bit, and they'll just blow it to the lawn. These things are cost. They drain your costs, like they eat into your costs and stuff. So liquid is more controlled because all that's going into the tank, and very little to none of it really spills out. As long as you do the 275 gallon on a 300 gallon tank thing. You have no spilling, you have no waste. I mean, your waste and your control of the products and expenses decrease in waste cost. And he's right also on fertilizer is, it can spill onto the sidewalk and then it's got to be blown back on, or it can spill into the street and stuff and it's got to be blown on to the lawn. And granular fertilizer isn't precise. Like a granular will go here while another granular will go here. Like it's not 100% precise, where liquid is more, you're covering everything. Every blade of grass will get the fertilizer. Every blade of grass will get the humic. All the liquid does, as long as you cover the lawn, every blade of grass gets touched by whatever you're putting on it.
Plus, I don't miss having little pearls of fertilizer around the shop everywhere that have spilled out. Because it's inevitable that they spill out and you got to sweep them up every morning, and I don't miss that at all at the shop. The shop is way cleaner.
Yes.
Now,
as compared to last year, the granulars that were spilled on the floor and stuff from a bag getting ripped open during shipping, or getting ripped open just when being put onto a truck, is a lot less. Is non-existent now almost.
One of my favorite things about putting granular down and doing a blanket spray is the weed control, because a lot of times before, when a tech's out in the field, and we've seen this all the time, whether it's from another company or even it's someone that we've hired, a new guy, if you have to spot spray with a backpack sprayer, they go out and they do their best to try to hunt down and find weeds in the grass. And even if they're a good tech, they're just not 100% successful. And heaven forbid you have a bad tech that doesn't even pull the backpack sprayer, spray any weeds at all. That's the worst scenario. But what I love about blanket spraying is that you don't have to rely on the tech to make sure the weeds are getting covered. It's the system you're relying on. So you're running over the lawn, they're spraying the entire yard, so they're spraying all the weeds. Whether they see them or not, the weeds are getting taken care of. And we know in our industry, the number one reasons why people complain or cancels is because of weeds. Right. People do not want weeds in their yard. It's the number one reason why we would lose a customer if they have weeds in their yard.
Right. And the other benefit for a technician is when doing a spreader and then a backpack sprayer, is a technician will have to walk over a lawn twice. And that takes a lot of time to do that. Some of our lawns are small and it's not a big deal, while some of our lawns are pretty big and we actually have a couple that are about 15,000 square feet. So walking along with a spreader of 15,000 square feet and then walking along again with a backpack 15,000 square feet, that's a lot of steps. It's a lot of walking. It's a lot of time spent at one house. And it's a lot of wasted time if you can just do it all in one pass versus two passes. It's a lot of wasted time. So a tech could do two houses at the same time that he just did the one house there. So in my mind, the liquid helps to benefit on making techs more efficient and being able to get a job done the first time without having to walk along 2 or 3 times for each individual product.
And there's always this debate in the industry of what's the best for production and what's the best for agronomically for the lawn. And another thing that I like about making our own fertilizer mix is we can actually go out and test the soil of some of our worst customers and see what things are missing and go ahead and build our formula and our application around the problems that we have in our specific areas versus just buying a bag off the shelf and saying, well, let's throw this down and use that. We can really pinpoint our unique needs in Colorado, and we're getting better and better at mixing the best formula for our customers. And it's like baking a cake and mixing the ingredients to a cake. At first, your cake may not taste so good, but the more cakes you keep baking, the better they get, the better looking they get, and the better tasting they are. And that's what's happening to us. The more we mix and the more we put down liquid, the better we're getting at getting the right product agronomically for our customers. And so I think it's a win in the long run for our customers.
I do too. And he's right, because in mid-season, like, we've made some changes even from the beginning of the season to where we are now, where we made changes on mixing rates, because we were like, well, this isn't working very well. We've done tests. We went out and looked at lawns. We did tests, and we found that the lawns just weren't looking as great as they could. And we were diagnosing, well, what could be done differently? Where could be changes be? And we've made changes mid-season, and the lawns have greened up dramatically since then. So the benefit of doing liquid and stuff is that you can kind of problem solve, add something else, to compensate or to improve or increase something, and make changes in people's lawns across all the lawns, and it'd be even across all the lawns with liquid versus granular, which because it spreads out so far, you don't know how much nitrogen is actually hitting on 100 square foot of turf.
Patrick, thanks for showing us how to mix today. Thanks for showing us the process that you do every day. I know this is a muscle memory and so natural to you because you do it so much, but appreciate your opinions and showing us how to do this.
You're welcome. I hope this helps you guys.
So now that we talked to our service manager and he kind of showed us how we mix our liquid product, let's go talk to our business manager, because she has a different view of the business and see what she thinks about liquid applications versus granular. Kelsey runs the business side of the business. She takes care of our account reps and overall day-to-day operations of the business. So let's talk to her and see what she thinks about switching from granular to more of a liquid application. What are your thoughts on switching to liquid, and have you seen any benefits or any disadvantages of switching as we did this year?
So with the liquid, going to the liquid apps, we were not relying on the techs and making sure that they were going through the lawns and spot treating the weeds. We kind of eliminated that by switching it to a blanket application. That way they were going and they were able to cover 100% of the weeds. So that eliminated a lot of our service calls. But the one downside was that the edges sometimes aren't always sprayed as well. But other than that, that was really the only downside of it.
And what that kind of showed us was what we're doing as far as weed control and blanket spraying the lawns really worked, because we noticed where they didn't get the edges in some places, that was the weak spot.
Yeah.
But the rest of the lawn, so 90% of the lawn was perfect.
Yeah.
And sometimes the 10% wasn't so great.
Yeah, we found that pretty early on, because that was really the only complaint we were getting from the customers, was that there was still some weeds along the edges. But for those middle weeds, they were not as persistent or as much of a problem this year.
Did service calls for weeds decrease once we switch to more of a liquid application process?
Absolutely.
By how much, do you know?
About 60%.
60%. So we had service calls drop by 60% just switching to this process of doing liquid there.
Yeah, it was a drastic drop in the service calls.
What's been the feedback from the customers? Have they said anything? Do they notice anything differently?
They've noticed that we blanket more. I think because a lot of our old customers were used to the spot spraying, so they were kind of used to certain areas of the lawn maybe being missed or more weeds being present in certain areas, and that was eliminated a lot this year, and so our customers were really able to pick up on that, and we contribute that to the blanket spraying.
Yeah. And so when we're building a process for our techs, we always tend to like to rely on the process, not the tech.
Correct.
Not that the tech's bad, but they're human beings, so they can fall short and they can have a bad day. And I've said this to Patrick when I was talking to him when he showed us how to mix, that what I absolutely love about blanket spraying herbicide on the lawn is that we're getting all the weeds whether you can see them or not.
Yeah.
And so you're not relying on a tech now to hunt and find the different ones, or say, God, I remember there was some in the back corner, I got to make sure I get those. Everything's getting treated, and so therefore the customer is generally much happier.
For sure.
Because as we said, for us, the number one reason why a customer is going to cancel is weeds.
Absolutely.
And so if we can solve that problem, we've solved the number one problem.
Yeah.
Cancel customers, at least for us.
Yeah, for sure.
And this doesn't work in every market because some markets where the lawns are much bigger, they're using ride-ons to spray, or it's just much harder to pull a hose.
Yeah.
And where we live here in Denver, we have very small lawns, and this is a common practice for all of our larger competitors.
Yeah.
And for us is to pull a hose and spray. I think if they're a professional company, they're probably pulling a hose in our market.
For sure. Yeah.
Only the smaller guys, which are usually 1 or 2 man operators, are spreading with granular.
Yeah. Yeah. The liquid definitely made a big difference this year.
Yeah. And I think it's a lot easier for us to control product costs and understand the product usage. Do you have an opinion on that of usage tracking versus granular versus liquid?
I think with liquid, it's easier to track how much product's being put out, because you can see how full your tank was. You can see how much the tech is coming back with, and then the tank is set at a certain calibration, and so they can't really change that. So the only thing that you're kind of not certain on is their walking pace, but you can calculate that by how much product they come back with. Or with granular, they can set their spreaders at a different setting, or they might walk a little bit slower, or product might spill. So this I think with liquid is a lot easier to track than it is with granular, and it eliminates a lot of guesswork and maybe mistakes that could be made.
Yeah. Was there any problems of switching more to a liquid application versus a granular? Was there any disadvantages of doing it?
Not that I know of.
No, nothing comes to mind.
No, besides like the color, but I think that was more like an internal thing than.
Yeah, and we fixed that after we decide. And so what she was saying is after our first couple applications, we weren't really happy with the color we were getting, so we had to tweak our formula a little bit and really enhance what we were doing.
Yeah.
With the help of some smart people to get that recipe exactly right for our market.
The one thing that went down was we didn't get as many fertilizer burns.
Yeah.
With granular, sometimes the techs would accidentally dump fertilizer, or the spreader would fall over, or they wouldn't close it, and so granulars would fall out, which would lead to fertilizer burn. Where with the liquid, we didn't run into that at all.
I don't think, did we have any calls for fert burn this year?
No.
And we can control the nitrogen level and how hot it is.
Yeah.
Based on how hot it is temperature-wise.
Yeah.
So we can loosen up on our release when it's really hot.
Yeah.
And speed it up when it's cooler, so we can control that, which is nice.
Yeah, which is much better than the granular.
And that's true. What you were saying is that as funny as it sounds, every once in a while there's a guy or gal that's doing a line with a granular push spreader, and for some reason they don't turn it off or shut it down when they turn.
Yeah.
And they leak a whole bunch of granular on the grass, and you can't imagine how this can be done, but it happens.
Yeah.
And they put a whole bunch of fertilizer down into the grass, and it burns a spot in the lawn. And so
Yeah.
we have
There's no real clean way to clean that up either. So with liquid, we didn't run into that at all this year.
Yeah. And I was telling Patrick a thing that I really enjoyed, because I know we like to keep everything clean and organized, is that there wasn't those little prills of fertilizer in the shop or on the parking lot anywhere. Like they were all clean because they just weren't around. And no matter how much you try, those little pearls get everywhere.
Yeah, and that it helps with eliminating the waste of products. We've not wasted nearly as much products as we had in the past, because you're not taking into account all of those things. You know, dumping in the bed of the truck and then just blowing it out. So you're able to control your product a lot better, I think.
Yeah, that's what I think too, and we talked about that, is that when you're spreading fertilizer with a spreader, it goes everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you get it in the street where you don't want it, you get it on sidewalks, it's getting thrown into the beds.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the beds I don't think that's that bad, because I think those flowers and those trees are actually using that nitrogen also and that fertilizer for their source of food. But you definitely don't need to be throwing fertilizer in the street. Especially if you're from Florida.
Yeah.
But from anywhere, and you don't need to be throwing it on the sidewalks, and then you don't need to take all that time and try to blow it back. And no matter how much you try to blow it back, there's still fertilizer prills in the street and on the sidewalk. They're just sitting there where they're not supposed to be.
Well, that cuts time out of the tech's production as well, because they're not having to go back and blow. So that's cutting back on their production time, which is also a benefit.
Is there anything that you'd like to do different with our process or our system? Any changes you'd like to make? Was it a good idea to do this in the first place?
I think I'd continue with the program the way that it is for several more seasons. I don't know that there's really much we need to change on it. I definitely wouldn't go back to more granular over liquid. I think liquid has had a better result in lawns, customer satisfaction, productivity. The techs are happier. The customers are happier, so I wouldn't switch it.
That's one thing we didn't mention, that the techs are much happier.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had techs that came back from last year, and they were telling guys how we did it last year with all the granular.
Yeah.
And they're like, whoa, talk about entitlement. They're like, whoa, that seems so hard.
Yeah.
You pushed a spreader for every application, and we're like, yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot easier and simple. It's more systematized for the tech, isn't it now?
Yeah, for sure. It's just the one pass over the lawn, and they're able to do their weed control and their fertilizer. Or before, they'd have to do the granular and then the spot spray weed control. And 2 passes over one lawn, it can be time consuming and can be frustrating at times.
I'm glad you said that, because I forgot how much the techs actually love doing it this way versus pushing a spreader.
Yeah, so I think all around everybody's happy.
Well, to sum it up, I think the lawns are getting better treatment from us this year, because they're getting better food sources and better things that are specific for what they need in our market.
Absolutely.
And the customer's definitely getting better service.
I don't
So
agree.
it's a win-win. Thank you so much, Kelsey.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Whether you're applying granular or liquid fertilizer for your customers, I don't think one is better than the other. It kind of depends on your business, your market, your size of lawns, what kind of trucks you currently have, what kind of equipment you currently have. There's a lot of variables in deciding whether you want to be full liquid, full granular, or a mix of both. I just wanted to show you the way we do things and the way we mix things, and hopefully that'll be helpful for you in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a fantastic day.